You guys remember this game. How could you forget? Game of the year. You know? This was the return to form uh for BioWare at least. You know, you have that term return to form. Ubisoft did it with Assassin's Creed Shadows. It was a return to form. And Dragon Age definitely just hit it right out of the park in like the fucking opposite direction though. But it was a return to form, and it failed miserably. The game sucked in all aspects. The gameplay was dull. The combat was dull. Very linear, so they could say it looked nice, but you couldn't see all the time and details that they put into the area because you were on a linear path. The puzzles didn't challenge you at all. The story was stupid. The fact that Stolas was, or not Stolas. Did I say Stolas or Sol? I think I said Stolas. This, not the Prince of Hell. No, Solus, was supposed to be the original villain. But then it's like, nope, let's just make it the elven gods. Curse you, gods! You're the source of all my problems. So, you know, people didn't like that. The fact that we have this just amazing character whining about not feeling comfortable with who they are and this and that, and using modern terms like non-binary when in an era where they're living that term shouldn't even be a thing. But nope, the no, the company couldn't help themselves. But all this wrapped up into a big stupid fucking lame ass Dragon Age burrito, and hence why we call it Dragon Age the Veilguard, because it failed in every aspect. Another game was like, oh, it's thank you for this many players. It took them 2 months to pass 1 million copies sold. But they're like, oh my god, there's like a cajillion people playing within the first 2 days. Yeah, and it took you 2 months to pass 1 million copies. So clearly, players playing it doesn't equate to copies sold. But no, people nowadays still want to. Oh my god, 3 million 3 million people are playing. That must mean like 3 million people have bought the game. No. Anyway, reporter who mocked gamers about Dragon Age the Veilguard now calls it a debacle. Blames everything but identity politics for the game's failure. I mean, it wasn't just identity politics, it was just a bad game with identity politics thrown in. Again, this is a game where Tosh begins a conversation with her own mother with, I'm non-binary. And even her mom's like, what the fuck is that? And even her mom says, we have a word for that in our language to... But no, again, the company couldn't help themselves. They have to insert modern bullshit into the game. You know, Tosh just, you don't know what it's like not being comfortable with who you are, demanding all the respect, but then giving none in return. Actually, I should really play, I really should play that clip because it's so bad, but it's hilarious. What's one of the things she says when she's talking to Emmerich? Okay, so it's 3 minutes long, but trust me, it's the 3 minutes is well worth it because this scene is absolutely ridiculous. The dialogue sounds like it was written by a 5-year-old. Tosh kind of shows who she truly is. Again, she wants all this respect. Oh, you need to respect my identity, but then she doesn't respect anyone else's. You know, she's calling Emmerich certain names, and he's clearly, visibly, and you know, you can tell he's upset. He even says that he is. It's like, I don't want you calling me that. But she's like, well, that's what you are. It's like, okay, well, then you're a fucking woman. But 3 minutes, just enjoy.
Can't believe you're asking for a favor as though nothing's happened.
What crapped in your bed? Oh, sorry. Didn't know you two were in the middle of...
Excellent. Come in. We could use a second sober voice.
I'm not drunk. You're drunk.
It's a figure of speech.
I was wondering when this would happen.
I don't follow.
You two didn't seem to be bonding. I need one of these little needle things to dig some crap out of my armor. Death Mage won't give me one.
First, a bone threader is an extremely delicate instrument. Second, it's Emmerich. Tash, my name is Emmerich, not Death Mage, not Corpse Guy, not... I won't repeat the rest.
What? You are a Death Mage.
And you're a woman, Tosh. Maybe if you want other people to respect your lifestyle, maybe you should respect others. Just saying.
Why are all my attempts to converse with you met with scorn? What have I done to you, Tash?
You talk about corpses too much.
It's a rich topic.
No, corpses are messed up. They used to have people in them. You make them move like they're alive, but they smell wrong and they move wrong and none of it is okay.
Do you see what I mean? That maybe it was just a bad game. Like, what kind of dialogue is that? Like, no, corpses are messed up. They used to have people in them. That is the brainchild of some brilliant, creative artiste who calls himself a writer. But, yeah, you clearly see Emmerich is like, why are you calling me? He's like, who hurt you, Tosh? He's like, I'm not bone, death mage or this or that. It's like, why are you... Again, this bitch complains about people not respecting her and her identity. But here she is like, well, you are a corpse guy. Yeah. Okay, you're a woman. We can play this game too. But now gotten that out of the way, showing it's just a bad fucking game with identity politics thrown in. On Halloween 2024, Dragon Age The Veilguard launched to a quick flash of attention on Steam. For a few hours, BioWare's long-delayed fantasy RPG topped sales charts, because there was really nothing else to buy at the time. That short-lived momentum was all it took for Bloomberg's Jason Schreier to mock the game's critics with a snide post on social media. So, go woke, go top of the charts. Yeah, because those are just big, beepy numbers. People have to remember that this is, while on Steam, this is just worldwide. Like, this isn't even the size of a small town. So, they want to act like this was a huge success. It wasn't. 58,000 people? No. No. The jab was aimed squarely at players who had raised red flags about the game's direction, players who were ridiculed for daring to question whether a beloved franchise had abandoned its roots in favor of trend-chasing aesthetics and cultural posturing. Just months later, Veilguard had become one of the most disastrous releases in modern gaming history. EA quietly pushed the game into steep discounts. And I think it's now included with that like set of like certain games, has like the Ninja Turtles games and stuff like that. But again, it took 2 months for this game to sell 1 million copies. So when they're saying, "Oh my God, thank you for 3 million players," that doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean anything. 3 million players, and yet it took them 2 months to sell 1 million copies. 1 million is less than 3 million. So clearly, player count doesn't equate to success. But no, people see big PP numbers and are like, "Oh my God, this game's a smash hit." The player base collapsed, layoffs hit BioWare. The game's director resigned, and now in an extraordinary about-face, Jason Schreier has published a lengthy article calling the game a debacle. But in nearly 3,000 words of post-mortem analysis, there's one thing Schreier never mentions: the exact criticism he once mocked, the overwhelming fan backlash to the game's identity-driven presentation, tone, and marketing. A masterclass in avoidance. That's what they do best. Just blame everything and everyone. Not the company who made a shit product. Oh, no. It's never their fault. It's always our fault. The consumer. The fans. Nope. Never, ever hold the company accountable. Ever. Because it's never their fault. They want to push identity politics in a game to the point where people are tired of it and don't want to play it. It's the fans' fault. They're not appreciating true art. You want to make a game where you're constantly berating and criticizing certain groups of people because you say that they're bigoted and this and that. No, it's not your fault. It's just they're not appreciative of true art. Because real people love being preached to. They love being preached to and belittled in an area, in a realm where it's supposed to be an escape from reality. People just love that shit. You know, people are coming home from a hard day at work and they're sitting down there like, you know, what do I want to do right now? Oh, wait, I know Doctor Who's on. Hey, babe, turn on Doctor Who. Doctor Who comes on, and guess what? You're getting preached to. Belittled because, oh, evil white man. And it's like, yes! I didn't want to watch a lame story about a man who travels through time and space in a fucking police box. I wanted to watch an episode that is on Earth where I'm getting preached to about the evils of white straight men. Yes, this is what I want. Same thing with this game. Same thing. Not once does Schreier acknowledge the widespread and immediate backlash from longtime fans who felt the game's tone and character design had abandoned the mature fantasy roots of the series. The first trailer for the Veilguard, or Veilguard, was lambasted across social media for its Fortnite-like aesthetics, over-the-top quippy dialogue, which sounds like it was written by a 5-year-old. The romances sound like they were written by someone who's never been fucking romanced before. Like, these people have either never flirted or had never been flirted with anyone. Things that the left would normally, like, what? That's like, there's the moment where Tosh picks up Rook and it's like, quick, think about us having sex. It's like, did I consent to this? And of course, the left are like, oh my God. But if it was any other situation, they would be saying that was freaking assault. Like, actually, hang on. Let me show, just to because I don't think me talking about it clearly drives into your mind how fucking terrible it is. So, hang on.
We bind ourselves to remember who we are. Tie down the stuff that's too dangerous to leave loose. My mother made me do it every morning before breakfast. I had big fingers. Used to take me forever. Avatosh, Shokotoebra. Only a beast is confounded by knots. A girl masters herself and the Darsa.
Sounds like your mother was hard on you.
Nah.
I think your fingers are just perfect.
Yeah. So... Are you trying to have sex with me?
Wow, you know, in my daydreams, this is where you lean over me and slap the wall.
Quick, think about us having sex. So now we need to figure out if it's Cashlock or Tomlock.
And those are...
Cashlock's just flirting. You look and make jokes and maybe think about him for fun. Tomlock is serious. Like you want to grab that and taste its neck right by the collarbone.
You see, this was clearly written by people who have never flirted with anyone or had anyone flirt with them. Because this is not sexy. This is not... like... again, if a man was to do this in a game, they'd be saying, "Oh my god, oh my god." Well, because you have a strong, powerful woman doing it, they're completely negating and forgetting the fact that that Rook never consented to any of this. Consent only important when they say so. But the dialogue is terrible. Who flirts like this? Even the most awkward people don't flirt like this. I mean, you might get those, "my lady," but that is still nothing compared to, quick, think about us having sex, and then puts her, "I'm sorry, I didn't consent to this." The dialogue is terrible. The romance is, again, I've said this numerous times. It's like they took a fanfic, read that, and said, "Hey, let's make a fanfic of this fanfic," and they fucking just slapped Dragon Age on it. This is not how, and then the people wonder why no one relates to any of these characters, because they're not relatable. That's one of the parts of Dragon Age that people like, is the relatability to these characters. This is not relatable. Who has ever had a conversation like this? Who has ever flirted with someone like this? I don't understand why no one likes the characters. Even the people playing this game is like, I can't relate to the characters. Can't imagine why. Okay, where were we? We're to talk quippy dialogue and an ensemble of characters that many felt looked like a diversity initiative rather than a cast grounded in the world's lore. Even internal testers reportedly flagged the snarky tone as a concern. Bioware's leadership scrambled late in development to rewrite portions of the script to avoid comparison to the notable flop for God on another terrible piece of shit game, Forspoken, but by then the damage was done. The tonal inconsistency became yet another issue on top of an already fractured gameplay and storytelling. Schreier mentions the dialogue rewrite, sure, but never connects it to the cultural criticism that had engulfed the game's reception. Instead, the article portrays the failure as a purely logistical issue: leadership turnover, multiplayer confusion, marketing errors, and an aggressive deadline. All true, but glaringly incomplete. Incomplete! Gamers were right. Media mocked them anyway. Of course we were right. We said that the game would fail. We said that the pronouns and the top surgery scars that shouldn't exist in a medieval type fantasy world, we said that it was going to be more than that, because everyone's like, "Oh my god, it's just pronouns." And then you played the game, and everyone's like, "Oh shit, they were right. Oh shit, they were right." The Veilguard was revealed. Players spoke up. Then they said this wasn't Dragon Age. They said the trailer looked like a parody. They pointed out that the dark, complex world BioWare had once built now felt like it had been scrubbed down for modern sensibilities, like removing things like giant spiders because, oh no, people have arachnophobia. Well, people are also afraid of deep water, so I guess you should remove that from the game too. People are also afraid of blood. I guess you should remove that from the game too. See what happens when you start removing things? Yeah. Makes no fucking sense, does it? They pointed to the ability to add top surgery scars in the character creator and the game's seeming obsession with gender politics as massive red flags, proof that this long-awaited title had like 10 years. People were waiting for another Dragon Age game for like 10 years. Title had gone off the rails and embraced the myth of the modern audience, which doesn't exist. They like to tell you, the left likes to think that it exists, that they try to push like it exists, but it doesn't. If it did, these games would be flying off the shelves. They would be making it like $1 cajillion. And every one of them would be up for Game of the Year. But spoiler alert, they're not. Because the modern audience doesn't exist. The modern audience is a very, 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 very small minority group of people who think that sexuality, skin color, and whatever other superficial bullshit is the most important thing in these games. Not being able to relate. You could have a great character, but these are the same people like, well, their skin color is not like mine, so I can't relate to them. So, the modern audience, complete bullshit. There is no modern audience. Or at least in their sense of what they think is happening here. That's not what people want. But instead of listening, industry reporters like Schreier chose to dunk on them in real time, only to quietly pivot months later when the numbers collapsed and the pink slips hit inboxes. That's the real issue. It's not just that the Veilguard failed. It's that the people paid to cover this industry fairly have consistently dismissed legitimate fan feedback. Because why would you worry about that? Because just ignore the masses and embrace the small minority of people who are going to suck your dick the entire time. You know, instead of for the minority, just get the group who's just going to like, oh yeah, oh BioWare, oh yeah, maybe get a little on that. I'm old. Is that even a thing still? Is that bitch even still fucking around? I don't know. Especially when that feedback challenges the prevailing ideological narratives of the entertainment press. What Schreier got right and what he didn't. We'll tell you everything he did get right. Absolutely nothing. No. To be fair, Schreier's piece contains some useful reporting. The article reveals the chaos behind the scenes at BioWare, the strain between the Dragon Age and Mass Effect teams, and the top-down mismanagement that led to decision after decision being overturned mid-development. These insights matter, but they aren't the whole story. They don't explain why players turned away in droves. Even the people who sucked the dick of BioWare when, you know, the game was being showed off, there was the one, I can't remember her name, but she was like, oh my god, top surgery scars. They care so much about us. And then the game comes out and she plays it, and then she makes a video saying, I don't think BioWare actually cares about us. Because everything is just stereotypes, and it feels like they're not actually, you know, here for us. And it's like, no, really? What? The big corporation that's pandering to you doesn't actually care? What? This just in, you breathe air. More tonight at 8. A 10-year franchise gap doesn't explain it. The late pivot to single player doesn't explain it. Even clunky combat doesn't fully explain it. What does explain it is Clarissa. She explains it all. Melissa Joan Hart, many people's first crushes. What does explain it, at least in part, is that the heart of the franchise, the heart of the cards, they didn't believe in the heart of the cards, and that's why their franchise failed. Only believing in yourself and your friends and the heart of the cards. That's right, Pharaoh. Is that the heart of the franchise has been ripped out and replaced with something that looked and sounded like it was written for a TikTok demographic. Yeah. I honestly imagine Tosh, you know, doing like the fucking Fortnite dance, which she's like, I mean, that's the only thing that would have made her character probably more bearable. Rather than the fantasy fan who built BioWare's reputation to begin with. And not only that is that angle ignored, it's the only angle Schreier won't touch. I bet that's not the only thing he won't touch. The fallout continues. Today, BioWare is a shell of what it once was. EA has restructured the studio, relabeled it its headquarters, and left only a small, bare bones group to work on the next Mass Effect, which people are terrified of. The future is uncertain, and fans are rightly skeptical. Jason Schreier, meanwhile, thousands of miles away, has pivoted. I was hoping there'd be one more pivoted in there. Has pivoted from mocking the game's critics to chronicling its collapse without a single note of self-reflection, because why would anyone take responsibility? It's a pattern we've seen before. When the warning signs are clear, legacy media mocks the fans. When the house burns down, they write about the fire, but never about the spark that lit it. We didn't start the fire. You're welcome. I just had to say those words, and you just got that song in your head, didn't it? You're welcome. I live to serve. They will never learn. They will never tell the truth. Yeah. But yeah, again, even now, time to reflect and possibly admit your wrongdoings and say, you know what, maybe they just created a bad game. Maybe they just created a bad game. It was pandering too hard. The gameplay itself was lackluster. The story was lackluster. The romances sound like they were written by someone who's never flirted with anyone before. No, it's still the fans' fault. It's still the fans' fault. How's that BioWare dick taste? Anyway, that's gonna do it for me. You guys know the drill. I'll see you guys later. Bye, guys.